recording of this session. So you're going to be, when you've got your camera on, we're going to capture you, and if you unmute your microphone, we will capture that as well. You can interact with the event by using the chat, or if you want to make a contribution, you can also raise your hand. Maybe without further ado, I'll hand over to Emma, who's chairing the CIMR workshop.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Marion. Thank you, everybody, for coming along. I'm Emma Palmer Foster. I'm a part-time PhD student here at Birkbeck, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the Centre for Innovation Management Research Public Policy Debate on Science Parks and Innovation Districts. In the research I do, I'm looking at stakeholder heterogeneity in science parks. So this is a very interesting topic for me, and I'm looking forward to hearing from the participants and from the audience as well, hearing your views on science parks and innovation districts. It's a real pleasure to chair this debate. What we're going to be talking about in this debate is to talk about science parks and innovation districts, whether they coexist or whether one is evolving to replace the other. Either way, whatever we conclude about the role of science parks and innovation districts, there's going to be plenty for public policy to pay attention to. So we're going to be talking about public policy and how that relates to science parks and innovation districts. We're extremely lucky today in the people that we have to discuss this topic. We have Stephen Cowan, who's leader of the London Borough of Hammersmith and Fulham. He's going to talk to us about White City Innovation District, how that came about and what its plans are for the future. We also have Dr. Josep Piqué from the president, he's the president of Technova Barcelona, La Salle Innovation Park. He's got extensive experience in science and technology parks and innovation districts, so he's bound to have some really clear views on how these two innovation areas can come together and promote growth in the future. And also as our discussant, who's going to critique and question the views of Stephen and Josep, we have Professor Lindholm Dahlstrand, who's Professor of Innovation at the University of Lund. She's worked a lot on innovation policy, entrepreneurship policy, and has some understanding of science parks and innovation districts. So she's going to be the one who's going to test the views of Stephen and Josep and pose some questions which all of us will be interested in. In terms of process, what's going to happen is Stephen and Josep are each going to talk for about 15 minutes, and then Asa will make her critique and her questions for 15 minutes or so, and then we'll have some Q&A from the floor, from the people who are listening. So you can either save your questions up to ask, or feel free to put them in the chat, and we will look forward to debating those. So onto the context of the debate. At a conference I was at recently, I heard the view expressed that innovation districts were a response to the failure of science parks, to embrace the local community, to bring more of the social fabric into their way of being, and that in fact science parks weren't the way that people wanted communities and areas to develop in the future. So that led me, of course, to think about whether science parks were dying out, whether the two innovation districts can coexist, and to wonder what might happen in the future. So that's the context of the debate, and that is probably enough from me. So we're going to kick off Stephen Cowan, who, as I say, is the leader of London Borough of Hammersmith and Fulham. He's going to tell us all about White City Innovation District, how it came about, and plans for the future. And I'm really glad I don't have to note the timing, because I can see his kitchen clock from here, so I don't have to even look down.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Stephen. We look forward to hearing from you.
Great. Well, thanks very much, Emma. It's very nice to see you again, and it's great to be on the platform with Josep and with Orsa. So thank you for inviting me. I am going to talk a little bit about our inclusive industrial strategy, and I stress that first word. It was fundamental, and I suppose, like all the best stories, this one starts in a bar. I'm a politician. I'm the leader of the London Borough of Hammersmith and Fulham, a Labour politician. And my colleague and friend, Andrew Jones, and I would regularly meet when we were in opposition and talk about what would we do if we were to win control of Hammersmith and Fulham, a Conservative flagship known as Cameron's favourite council. And it was seen as a very difficult thing. So we spent a lot of time contemplating that. And Andrew Jones is also known as Professor Andrew Jones. At the time, he was a professor at Birkbeck. He went on to be a professor at City, and now he's the Vice Chancellor at Brunel University. But he's a professor of economic geography. And his synopsis was that the British don't do economics very well. I think he sort of said that we were probably the only country on earth who really took the whole idea of the invisible hand of market sorting everything out totally seriously. Even the Americans, he would point out regularly, have funding through the military and industrial complex. And indeed, that was one of the reasons he argued Silicon Valley was such a success and a global capital when it comes to science. So we talked a lot about this and decided we would have an inclusive industrial strategy. And if you move the next slide, please. You know, Andrew would point out that he would take his Birkbeck students up to Tyneside in the northeast of England and say, this is where the industrial strategy, this is where the industrial revolution started, and this is where it's run out. And he would point at the place where the coal came out of the ground, where the first trains ran to transport the coal, and then it would point at the call centres that had become the new employment for many of the people in that localised economy. And again, we would surmise that we were better than this as a country, and it was a shame that it had come to this. And it was often the case, I suppose, where we'd look back at the past. And so this slide here, if anyone wants to look at it, it was at the time, and you can see it's many things from our modern 21st century perspective, many things wrong with that. But from the time that appeared, that was the most cutting edge technology that there had been in 8,000 years of human civilization. And people, as we know, moved to cities, they set up industries, they used machines where there had been people to do all the work, and Britain led the way on that. But it peaked, didn't it? It peaked very quickly by the end of the 19th century, and most of the 20th century was one of economic decline in different ways. And so the next slide, please. Our question was, what will the future be like? What will people be saying about us in the dawn of the 22nd century? Will we be giants like the Victorians who built public housing and public hospitals and shaped roads and railway lines and thought about the nature of the rights of human beings and wrote them into law? Or will we not? Will we be a bunch of people who move the papers around? So what you see there on the left is a robot soldier, a robot police officer. You might think that's a distant thing for the future. That's actually now in Dubai. They have robot police officers, believe it or not. My grandparents would be terrified. If there's a sort of idea of flying cars, as a young boy, I would hope for such things. But there's another picture on the right of AI. That's an AI-generated idea of a future city. But actually, human beings are the people with the imaginations. It's for us to dream and think, and for us to think what might be a better world, and how do we shape it. So, next slide, please. Take a second to read that. I picked this up at a presentation with our new partners in Barcelona, I think 18 months ago. And it struck me, this book was written in 2015, but what Richard Dobbs, James Manica and Jonathan Woodsell sort of pointed out was however slow, however fast the change might have looked in previous industrial revolutions, this one is leaving most of us behind. People contemplate what is the future going to look like, and with a tech year roughly a month now, that future arrives on our doorstep and presents us with both challenges and opportunities extremely quickly. So for us as municipal politicians, Andrew Jones, who deserves much of the credit for this, his essential view was that government should intervene to create local ecosystems. And when we look to Germany, the German Länder and the German city-states, and how the post-war economic miracle came out of having strong municipal city-state government with a responsibility for coordinating infrastructure planning, skills development, education, building planning, and working with business to make sure business had what it was needed to grow. We could see that it was necessary for Britain to do the same, but that hadn't happened. And indeed, I was in Bradford last week, and you have an amazing council leader there, an amazing council administration, but it's doing its best, having been ignored maybe for 50 years. And while I was there, in this beautiful place, Bradford, architecture is stunning. The reason it's so wealthy and beautiful is because it was the economic powerhouse in the mid-19th century. So what about the 21st century or the 22nd century in a more globalized economy? So next slide, please. And that made us think, well, whilst we don't have the powers in British local government, in fact, we have very few powers in British local government, and I've been very inspired, having become friends with Josep and learning from our partners, our amazing partners in Barcelona at 22 at, what powers the city has there and the regional government has there to get things done. In Britain, we don't have a constitution. We don't have many powers. And if you look at that little pink sliver there, you can just about make the words out, Hammersmith and Fulham. So we were very pleased to win a landslide election in 2014, and we've had 2 more since. And that meant that we were presented with what are we going to do to build our economy up. And we set out on the mission to build a local economic ecosystem in science, tech, engineering, maths, and media. Media because Hammersmith and Fulham famously had White City, most famous for the Blue Peter Garden being vandalised, if you're old enough to remember that and you're British. But certainly it was famous because it was where the BBC were. And all TV programmes from Doctor Who to That's Life have been broadcast live from White City for most of the post-war period. And they moved to Salford largely, but they left a residue with Disney and UK TV and Endemol there. But we also had moved into the northern part of our borough, Imperial, who'd been in the Royal Borough of Kensington, Chelsea next door for 106 years. They were set up largely with this inspiration of Prince Albert's original ecosystem around the Science Museum and the Natural History Museum and that part of Kensington. And they had bought some lab space, some land. We're building lab space in the north of our borough. Next slide, please. So we took the view that what we needed to be, given we didn't have any of the hard powers that you might get in our continental partners and cousins, that we should still be entrepreneurial in our municipal government, that we should seek to grow an ecosystem. And that meant using our power to convene, to persuade, but also our powers to change plans and land development, as much as those were weak. Use them as much as possible to put the factors in that were necessary for an ecosystem. And we got lucky. When you often set up an enterprises and you take a risk, you can sometimes find the cards fall your way. And when we went eventually to get in to see Imperial College London, and we pitched our idea of an economic ecosystem built around the STEM prowess that comes out of the 6th best university on earth. They're one of 20 universities in that who could be the 6th best university on earth. We were met by Professor Alice Gast. Now, Alice, apart from being Hillary Clinton's science envoy when Hillary was Secretary of State, Alice was also had been at MIT, where the Kendall Square Innovation District and Eco Hub was very much an inspiration to us in Hammersmith and Fulham. And she'd been prior to that at Stanford, where clearly the Bay Area is the most famous powerhouse in tech that there is on earth. And it was one of those points where we just pitched to Alice, we would like to do this, and she pitched back almost exactly the same thing. Pointed out we were the only council who never approached her, and therefore asked us, said she would sign an agreement. So we had it, the entrepreneurial municipal government, we had the world-leading university, and we had a collection of STEM businesses that we were going to seek to attract and build. Next slide, please. We were aware that with such weak powers in British local government, what really mattered was the strength of relationships. I've always been struck in business how people and entrepreneurs, when you watch those shows, will say it's human relationships, it's networks, it's the friendships, it's the trust that you have with people that allows you to pick up the phone and get something done. So we took this 1970s management guru's view that culture eats strategy for breakfast. I love that. I so much love it. It's so simple, but so beautifully true. We took that to our heart and wanted a culture of collaboration. We set up all sorts of people to come and help us. And we have the next slide, please. And what we thought we wanted to do is to focus on the word ecosystem, which, as you know, I'm sure you all do know, comes from the ecological movement. It's about having a rainforest or any type of ecology where it just self-functioning, because no one's gardening this. So our question is, we can get this started, but at what point does it just take on its own life? Does it grow and become its own thing? And that's really where it came from. What did we need to put in place? Next slide, please. Now, that was in 2017 that we launched our economic ecosystem. And remember, a year is a month in tech. So since then, we've got £6 billion worth of growth investment and created over 8,000 jobs, and 85% of that's in STEM. That, just put into context, is more investment than all of West London put together. The next slide, please. So £6 billion being more investment than all of West London put together is quite remarkable, because look how small we are. We're the little blue bit at the bottom. That's the West London Alliance. You've got Heathrow there. You've got the Thames corridor. Sorry, the A4 corridor leading into the M4 corridor. You've got our infrastructure in West London is about 100 years ahead of East London and South East London. So we have advantages already, but to get that level of growth into such a tiny area shows the importance of having a determined, inclusive industrial strategy. Next slide, please. The bit I'm happiest with is just breaking it down. Many of the ideas that came out of the pandemic came from White City. It came from not just the businesses, not just the University of Imperial, but it came from businesses. In life sciences, a woman recently came to speak to some of our school kids. She's developed a microscope using you can't look through it, has no screen. It's AI, but they look at the cell and it can tell you 1,000 things in a second, whereas an expert medic might spot 6 things in an hour. So they're doing quicker understandings of people. There's stuff like that happening all the other time. We took some Polish cities recently, we twinned with via an environmental body we're in with the United Nations. And I showed them around and I was blown away to find we were taking PFAS out of water, which is something that pollutes our water. I was finding we're building bionic trees, which produce 1 hectare of this stuff does the work of 147 hectares of rainforest at producing oxygen, swallowing CO2. The level of innovation there is stunning. And our idea, our unique contribution as a bunch of politicians and a council was to say, let's monetize it, let's turn it into business growth. So that meant we've had more green climate tech investment than Bristol, Manchester and Birmingham combined. Now, a lot of this is down to the cleverness of Imperial. A lot of it's down to the cleverness of having an ecosystem around Imperial. Those figures are stunning. Next slide, please. But I'm a politician. I'm a social democratic Labour politician. I care about everyone having life chances. And what we didn't want to do was to have people watching this gentrification of the smartest people on earth with their noses squashed against the window and thinking none of this is for us. And whilst we know that by bringing in wealth like this and creating business, there will need to be things like nurseries, nursery teachers, there'll need to be bars and jazz musicians, and there'll need to be all sorts of work to make a community really a delightful place to live and work. But we wanted to make sure that people from the toughest backgrounds got the best possible opportunities. So the biggest thing we're doing as a council is to spend £118 million building a state-of-the-art youth centre, which links directly into the opportunities of our innovation district. And more importantly, I've always believed people are fundamentally good. We have people, business people, rich people saying, what can I do to help talk in the schools? And we sort of said to some of the businesses, look, it's not just altruism. Have a 20-year talent management strategy, talent recruitment strategy. Start in kindergarten and start doing what they do in Germany and acclimatizing people so they could have a job in these very fast-moving industries. I'm really pleased that more people from White City now go to to Imperial than any other university, which is very, very good. And that has been drops in no qualifications. And we set up a schools commissioner because, again, we don't have power over schools, but we're using the soft power of having a head teacher work with other head teachers to link the life opportunities of kids into our innovation district. Next slide, please. These are some of the things we've done. I'll circulate the slides afterwards so you can read them. I'm not a fan of reading from PowerPoint. I'll let you have a quick read now. Okay, I'll let you read that later on. Next slide, please. That's our motto. I fundamentally think at the dawn of the 22nd century, people will look back at this part of London and think, bloody hell, that was quite imaginative, because it is, I think, shaping tomorrow, and I'm very proud to be in a small part of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephen. That was great.
That was great.
Thank you for the very enthusiastic
description
of what you did and what you're doing at White City. That's great. Thank you very much. So I'm sure people have questions for Stephen, so we look forward to seeing those in the chat. And oh, Marion's clapping as well. Thank you, Marion. Look forward to seeing them in the chat, and make sure you put your questions in, otherwise I will hog the space and ask lots of questions. We're now going to move on to Josep Piqué, who is going to talk to us about his experience in Barcelona and other regions of Europe, talking about science and technology parks and innovation districts, and telling us his experience about what he thinks is going to be the future of those two innovation areas. Thank you, Josep. We look forward to hearing from you.
May you see my slides? Yes?
Yes,
okay,
we can see
good.
them.
Perfect, good. Thank you, because for me it's an honor to be with the leader sharing this debate, because I feel that we are sharing a lot of knowledge and experience on how White City Innovation District is really a very, very interesting approach, how Imperial College was transforming the reality of Hammersmith and Fulham, and also how 22@ was transforming an old industrial districts in a new knowledge-based industrial districts. In order to check that I am just in the time, please check, Emma, if I use my 15 minutes in appropriate time. But in any case, I will put my chrono here for checking myself. Okay, good. I feel the debate that we put on the table is very interesting, because this is about purpose. This is about purpose. Science parks were at the beginning of the history with the Stanford Research Park and so on, the way that the universities were developing the third function. You know that any university of the world is doing three key functions. The first one is education, output talent. Second one is research, output technology. And after that, what can I do with that? Talent, technology, we can do different things, but the key point is how can we transfer to the market? And the idea of the science park were the tool that the universities were using for transferring this knowledge to the market. But we go to technology parks when we discover that technology parks beyond science park were the tool that we had in the past for territorial development. It means how can we use the science and technology for transforming industry and also for transforming the land of the different regions, usually non-urban regions. But with all of that, we had the last phase of this evolution to innovation districts. That is when we discover that the universities are a key asset of the knowledge-based economy, but the people that are working in some companies, knowledge-based companies, they need not only work, they need to live. And that's the moment that we discover that the city is the platform of this new knowledge-based economy. And let me go for this slide just for understanding how important is understanding the geography of the economy. We know that in the past, as we saw in some slides from Stephen, we were located where we had some resources. For instance, the key infrastructures were the logistics. I remember how you were developing very well in London, not only in London, in the UK, all the water channels or the way of the movement, like in Leeds or in other places. It was the logistics was very important, the connection with the raw material, be very close of the mines. But nowadays we have a knowledge-based economy. What knowledge infrastructures we need for this kind of economy? How is changing the geography, and also what policies we can do in order to stimulate this application of the knowledge to the economy and also the society. For that, as Stephen was using in a very good way, we understand that we have not only public and private approaches. We have a new animal in the zoo, is the university, the academia, that is a key agent in this transformation. Not only, as Professor Henry Edgewitz says, that from laissez-faire and in very more economical approach, or with the approach of the everything is coming from the government that we saw in the past. There is the new input of the academy, of the university, providing this tool that is how can we use talent and technology for transforming economy and society. This is important because we are creating like hybrid organizations that are combining the best of the three agents plus the society. Important because there is some authors that are also including the Helix number 5 for the environment approach. But in any case, the three agents of the center are the key agents of this ecosystem of innovation, serving society and environment. With that, we see very well how science is global for definition, because the science method is global. Any science in any university of the world is creating global science, but the challenge is how can we use this science for developing the industry and also developing our society. And what is, and how important is the role of the local dimension as a global competitive advantage. Let me tell you that from us in 2012 was the way that we discovered that the first mile of global innovation was our city. And any city has to allow the entrepreneurs and innovators to apply and learn locally in order to scale globally. But we are now also in a moment that open innovation is in all the world. Big companies are buying startups in any place of the world. We know that our research and development department is the world, and any company is looking for new innovation coming from any place of the world and buying this technology and these new products and services for scaling globally. Important because we see that we have to combine two approaches. The approach of how can we create new startups, at the end of the day, who is exploring what's next, and how can we scale startups or scale-ups or companies. That is the process of industrialization. This is very interesting for understanding that the future is in the hands of startups. They are learning what's next because they are trying to find what is the new need or the new product that is solving new needs, on how can we use new technologies for applying new solutions for the past or new solutions for the challenges of the future. With all of that, we see that we have to combine and to create this ecosystem of innovation that is combining the startups and corporates, and how the triple helix is working in different ways in the different phases. The important role of the university at the beginning is key, and the role of the companies is key for absorbing these new startups as a source of innovation. For that, we understand that the knowledge-based economy is about clusters and clusters of innovation, combining entrepreneurs, ventures, capital, and also major corporations, and the key role of the university as a source of talent and technology. And when we discovered all of that, we saw, wow, this is about research, entrepreneurs, angel investors, but this is also about good food, wine, and coffee. And why Tappan Monroe was writing about that? Because this is about quality of life of talent. This is about what is the value proposition beyond the work or the job or the professional life, the personal life. That's when we discover how important it is to provide to any talent of the world and also any young talent, who is your city? Who is the place where you will grow and you will develop your life? It's not the same, the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, with couple, with children, with emptiness. But this is a key point, how we are the platform for this knowledge-based economy as a cities. The city is the place that we can offer the people for working and living. And that's the moment that we need to manage this talent, understanding that we have local, and I love the approach of Stephen about inclusion, because this is not about social dimension, also because we need to create new generation of talent that is ready to develop our economy and our society, but also how can we manage international talent and retention of talent. Retention, perhaps in London you don't have this challenge, but in people like in Cordoba here, in Argentina here, because I am now in Argentina, I am from Barcelona, but in any case, the important role of managing of talent. And managing of talent in some cases are the returning of talent, because they live in the past from Brazil to London or to Spain, and they need to attract to come back. With all of that, we need to understand how important is the physical, the hard factors, usually are more in the urban planning, infrastructure and building, but the soft factors, how can you combine science, technology, industry and market? That's the moment that we connect the research and technology with the market, but also how can we promote companies, but also how can we manage as the society, the talent. With all of that, let me tell you that in the case of Barcelona, just for connecting in reality, we had the same challenge that you had. More than that, we're learning from you, because when you so if you were at the beginning of the last century in Barcelona, we say that it was the Catalan Manchester. We were learning during industrial revolution, we were applying, we were working a lot, but sometimes the future is not the past. Sometimes the path dependency is not providing to you the keys or the key solution for the future. And we had this big problem, and we had a wonderful leader like you have in Hammersmith and Fulham, leading this transformation, telling us that perhaps we need to know what means knowledge-based economy. And knowledge-based economy is the T economy, and is how we, the city, we can be the platform for economical and social development. For that, the decision was not just transform all industrial land in just housing. We have obviously housing because we need to housing for talent, but we preserve this industrial economy, but in this case, in knowledge-based industrial economy, and working in the smart city means in the hard factors dimension, in the soft factors dimension, but also in the social dimension. Very important because the three levels are important, but more than that, the holistic approach is important. It's not just to work in the urban and real estate development, not thinking in the rest of the dimensions. That's the reason why we invited 10 university centers to be in this zone. We didn't have any university in that place. The new knowledge-based economy is about talent. The source of this knowledge-based economy is the university, and the mind of the transformation is the university. That's the reason why, as we put 10 university centers inviting public and private universities, now we have economy, we have companies that they want to be close of this new, in this case, companies or this new university or universities that are in the place, but also we were transforming in a green growth and also in an inclusive growth. The approach was, let's use not only the science parks as a tool for economical transformation, also the social transformation and the, in this case, territorial development. If you see 22 4 million square meters, we were not the owners of the land. We were transforming the land using the law, the regulation for allowing the people to increase the floor, and also using the 30% of the land for social housing, for universities, and also for green areas. You will see in a smart city in the year 2000 was wonderful. We were learning how to use the city as a lab, allowing entrepreneurs to use our streets as a place for testing locally in order to scale globally. And also we're learning how to align the different agents of the ecosystem of innovation with a common purpose. That was the purpose of economical, social, and territorial development. If you look at the economy, we're working a lot in the concept of clusters, combining different agents that working in the same sector. Stephen knows very well this district because he was working in this area at the Pompofar University with the media sector, with all the agents, or the IT cluster with different companies like Telefonica, but also universities, or the energy cluster with the UPC. As you can see, every university is involved, or the biomedical research park. This is a park inside the district because they are focusing more in biotechnology and health industry, and also the the design cluster that is combining more the focus in creativity. With that, after more than 20 years, we have more than 8,000 companies, more than 93,000, really near 100,000 jobs, new knowledge jobs, and also the investment of the privates were incredible, more than 2,500 million euros plus 200 million euros from utilities and public investment. With that, what I want to stress is to say you that innovation districts are including the social dimension in both ways. First, for allowing the professionals that are coming to the district to be part of the community, but second, following the guidelines of Stephen, the inclusive growth. This is about young children that are in the street in touch with the new reality, the new future. Perhaps you have the best, perhaps not always you have the best parent that you can have, but perhaps your parents are not the reference of your new job. That's the moment that you connect with exposition, with connection, with the startups, with companies, with universities that will allow you to use the social elevator. Just for telling you that now Barcelona is rethinking not only 22, different districts are using this same strategy. In Montjuic in the sports, because we have the Olympic Stadium, the Industry 4.0, the blue economy in the center. This is the way that we understand that we are changing the geography of innovation of the city. Just for finalize my slides and also my presentation, let me take advantage of this moment for sharing a research that we were doing with Dr. Karina Rapetti, understanding the key performance indicators of an innovation district. You will see that some of the performance indicators are connected with the science part. For instance, the patents or the IP or the publication in scientific journals. But here we include more indicators in terms of economic development and also social development. But it's important to see that when you connect urban, economic, social, and governmental dimension, you have a complex reality that is interconnected, because sometimes you have floor that is allowing the companies to be, and at the end of the day, you are offering jobs, but also you have research and university centers that are developing pilots or promoting knowledge-based economy, a knowledge-based company that are creating jobs, or in the case of the management team, they can promote, for instance, private and public investment that will help startups to grow and also connecting with new jobs. That's the way that we combine the best of all dimensions. And the good things is jobs means the opportunity for working, but also the opportunity for living in the district. Like a takeaways is a place for living and working. It's a density of interactions. It's a cluster strategy, but also is a places for collaboration. You can download, this is an open journal that these slides that you can download the story 22 and also all the performance indicators that we were talking. The last conclusions, just for answering the question of the debate. Science Park, we're starting from science to the market. That's good. It transfer and new technology data standard. Technology parks were more in territorial development. That's good. In the case of we have some technology parks like in Malaga that they were doing a wonderful job developing new areas outside of the cities. But now innovation district is about talent, but also we're adding the social development. Thank you very much, and sorry if I was using my time Yeah,
no, that's great.
Okay, good.
No, that was really good. Thank you, and a really nice summarising slide at the end as well. So thank you very much for that. So now we're going to move over to also Lindholm Dahlstrand, who's Professor of Innovation at Lund University, whose unenviable task is to synthesise what she's just heard, critique, and give us some of her views on science parks and innovation districts. Thank you. Also, we're looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you very much, and thanks for two very inspiring presentations. So yes, my name is also Lindholm Dahlstrand. I'm Professor of Innovation Studies at Lund University, but I'm also visiting professor at Birkbeck, which should be mentioned. I would like to come back to the questions raised in Emma's introduction, the synopsis for this seminar today, and it's about is it possible for science parks and industrial districts to coexist? Do they have the same purpose? Do they have different roles, or do they complement each other? Should this, like Josep, you mentioned a little bit that science parks could be included in the industrial district. Is this something we want for the future? And is it something that could be created elsewhere or only in metropolitan areas? That would be my first question. I'm not going to have a lot of critique, like Emma said. That's not my role. I would like to get some inspiring answers from the people here with a deep knowledge of the subject.
Yeah, if I may, Asha, yes, they can not only coexist, that we need both. We need that all the universities must develop the third function in a proper way. It means they need some kind of infrastructures, could be science park, could be incubators, could be different tools in order to be sure that the third function is delivered. But they can be isolated. But really, what we see more and more is like Imperial College, they are using the city as a place for developing not only the science to the market, also in connection with the society. That's the moment that we see Innovation District providing the ecosystem, not only in the soft factors, also in the hard factors. And let me tell you that hard factors is also housing. If we don't have housing for young people, we're exposing the young people from the city. If we don't have young people in the city, we cannot develop the knowledge-based economy. Housing is also a knowledge-based infrastructure. And it could be residents, it could be hotels, or it could be just housing. By the way, in 22 we were reviewing indeed the law from the year 2000, increasing the housing because we discovered that we needed more density because the streets, we like in Barcelona to use the streets 24 hours, 7 days, not only from 9 to 5, that is happening usually in Technology Park. That's the moment that, answering your question, the purpose of the science park is the third function, talent technology to the market, the purpose of the economy of innovation districts is including the society.
Should I come in?
Yeah.
Yes. I think it's a brilliant question, actually. When Josep and I were, and Emma and I were all in Luxembourg recently at the Science Parks and Innovation Districts conference, I met with other people who want to build them. I met with the Saudis who want to build one around Riyadh. And there is a question. If you're gonna try and attract the smartest people on Earth to go somewhere like the Bay Area in California, like Kendall Square in Massachusetts, like Copenhagen or Barcelona, it's quite an easy pitch to go to Barcelona. It's one of the greatest cities on Earth. You've got really wonderful people like Josep and the mayor there, all committed to the project that's going on. But if you look what's going on in 22 at, we partner, we have a memorandum of understanding with Barcelona 22 at. They're our partners, so we work very closely with Barcelona. But they've buried a flyover and building a giant public park. They're as interested in their arts and cultural development being around the district, their innovation district, as they are about having high quality lab space. I went to some great bars with Josep and there was jazz playing. I would like to work there for those reasons. Whereas a science park can, outside of town, it can be a very exclusive area where you just go to work. So they're not unlike business parks in that sense. At their worst, they're soulless. At their best, they're a great place to work. They're not necessarily a great place to live, work and play. And I think that's the crucial difference. So for me, innovation districts in cities are crucial, and it's up to us to ask that sort of philosophical question: what's a good society, what's a good life? And in answering that question, we're also entering what's a strong local economy, and that's going to be around science, tech, engineering, maths, medicines, and media. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it's
very good answer.
Oh, I have a strange echo now. I have to ignore that. Okay, so yeah, and I like this expression with the fine food, wine, and coffee thing. Yeah, I think it's central, and the housing, of course. But is the innovation district you present here, are they really innovation driven, or are they driven for other purposes? Is it local economy driven or talent driven districts? In what sense are they innovation driven?
Okay. Innovation is a word that is you activate innovation when you have a challenge, and you have a challenge when you have a purpose. It means the origin of innovation is the purpose. The idea of 22 we were doing innovation in the 3 levels: in the economical level, in the social level, and in the urban level. You will see in 22 that we are redefining the streets. Why? Because we, if you know, I don't know, you know that these quarters, that super blocks that we're developing in Barcelona, in order to reduce the number of cars and also to include more the social dimension. That's interesting because it means that we are doing innovation in the urban level, also allowing mix of users or doing new infrastructures like the smart city. In the economical level, we're doing a lot of work in the different clusters. It's not the same. Innovation in health will be how do you do. For instance, we have a very good cluster in biomedical and e-health. That is a very important role. Or in media with the video games and so on. It means that inside the word innovation is a very big one, and you apply it in different levels. We were doing innovation when we discovered that we had to be the first mile of global innovation. Allowing innovation in the streets of Barcelona is a way of inviting the entrepreneurs of Barcelona, of the world, that they can start to scale or to learn in Barcelona in order to scale globally. But let me tell you also, Asha, because I don't want to forget this, and I know that Stephen also knows how important it is, that it's about inclusive. And let me tell you that this is not about the best people of the world. It's about to provide and to get the best from any citizen. That is a different approach. We need, let me tell you, Messi's. That's wonderful. Messi, we have Messi in the past, you know, in the football. Now he's in Miami. But we need to attract international talent. Why? Because they are stimulating us not to be just local, but we need to be sure that young people is growing. Because if not, you can see, and let me tell you that one of the bad things of Silicon Valley, that they are a magnet of global talent. If you are an Indian guy doing a PhD in Berkeley, after that you go to work to Google, but nobody is allowing or is thinking in how to create a social elevator from a young people in San Jose. That's the moment that we believe that the inclusion in 2 ways, for justice, but also because we need talent. Nowadays, Barcelona, we attract 90 innovation centers of global companies. We don't have enough talent. They will need 14,000 people, talent, engineering, artificial intelligence, so on. We need also to invite the young people to connect with this for job opportunities, but also for economic development. But more than that, because if they don't get this train or they don't connect with this future, we are not managing in a good way what we say gentrification. Because gentrification is not that you are only respect, is allowing the people to still live because they have job opportunities. And that's the moment that you combine the economic and social development.
Good.
Just to answer your question, I would say, sorry, you're going to say something, Emma?
No, I was just going to say we've got some questions from the floor, but do finish off, that's fine.
Don't worry, I've spotted I was going to answer it. Yes, you're right. So I would say it's just, Josep had it in his presentation too. He had it quadruple helix because he's put society to wrap around. I've got it as the triple helix of entrepreneurial government, municipal government, world-class university, and then STEM industries. And he's right to wrap society around it, although I've included society in government, because I think any good government, and I know there aren't always good governments, but I think any good government will endeavour to be completely embedded in society and be of it as much as it is of government. And so I think that's the reason why you have the triple helix. And to make it an innovation district, it's as Josep referred to, it's the new kid on the block. It's world-class, cutting-edge academic institutions. That's what makes it innovation, really. There's some very quick advances going on in tech, STEM, maths, engineering, AI, cyber, fintech, everything. How do we capture that, and how do we monetize it into a business? Well, the only way it's being generated is in world-class academic institutions. If you're not in Imperial, you'll want to go to Cambridge. If you don't want to go to Cambridge, you'll want to go to MIT. This is where most people go, and we want their ideas to be turned into economic growth locally. So I think that's what defines an innovation district.
Before they cut me off, could I just ask quickly, would you agree then that the innovation would focus much more on the inclusive growth than economic growth? Like in the old days, science parks used to focus on employment creation, things like that. But the inclusive issue is what's put in the center right here.
I think that goes to the heart of, I think, the philosophical challenge for government at the moment, certainly in Britain. So just to come back to Helen Lawton-Smith's point on the chat. So she's asking, what about Black, Asian, minority, ethnic people? Are they involved? What about people who disabled people? Are they involved? How is it genuinely inclusive if you're not including them? Well, that's a bit government brings. I know in my borough in Hammersmith and Fulham, we're the only council in Britain not to charge for adult social care. We did that after working very closely with disabled people's organisations who said it's a disability tax. And therefore, we made all our officials go on disabled people's training, so they understand just how you can, by accident, be prejudicial to disabled people. We've taken the social model of disability, rather than the medical model, and put that into the heart of how we govern. And that means it's at the heart of how we govern with our partners. It's at the heart of how we teach in our schools. It's at the heart of how we construct our public realm. So creating inclusivity is sort of the DNA of our type of government. But it does need quite practical measures, and that's why we put the £118 million youth centre next to one of the most deprived parts of northwestern Europe. And people are coming through from all sorts of ethnic heritage, and people are thriving. If you go to White City, it's very, very diverse. So yeah, it is for everybody. I think the challenge philosophically for government is, in Britain, there's two arguments, and the World Bank has an argument. So the World Bank's arguing that what you need is charter cities, where you remove municipal government and you just let places get run like Hong Kong, and before you know, you have huge economic growth. And Rishi Sunak's been quite interested in maybe testing some of those out in Britain, which would mean eradicating lots of local government. If there's an answer to that, it's Barcelona, which is the reason that Barcelona is a powerhouse, is because it has an amazing municipal and regional government. And when you go around Barcelona with Josep, you realise this is actually part of their democratic value system. And I think that's crucial. Even my own party, I think
Sorry, Stephen, can we just, it's a very interesting frame, but I just want to address questions from the chat, if that's okay. Just so I've got some questions from others, but thank you very much. Rosa Fernandez from DSIT, which I think is the new acronym, Department for Science, Innovation and Technologies, asking, and Josep, I'll ask you about this one. What about scale? How many innovation districts can a city fit, and where do the boundaries lie?
Joseph, do you want to go?
Yeah. When you talk about how many innovation can a city fit, it means that at the end of the day, in the case of Barcelona, what we do is we try to identify in every district the specific focus on what is the economy and society that they can develop. That's the reason why when we do that, we are making this specialization. We were sharing the Barcelona green field, but also it means that every zone could be, the idea of Barcelona is you have to have a place for working and living. It means that it's a 15-minute city. It means if you have to commute 1 hour and come back, you have a place for housing, but not for economical development. But answering also another question that is in the chat about the social dimension. One of the things that we were doing was to work in all the public and private schools, promoting, as Stephen was talking about, the STEAM, promoting the connection with the children, with the hope. And the hope is not about opportunities. The hope is about passion. The hope is about connecting them with the opportunities that they can develop in the future. And that's the moment that we were promoting, for instance, robotics in the schools, in all the public schools, and we are increasing the number of STEAM people. We are increasing the number of young people that are choosing to connect with the new knowledge-based industry. That's the moment that you are offering them the inclusive growth. It means that we are offering them the possibility to engage with this new knowledge-based economy.
Stephen, did you have a view on that? How many innovation districts could you get into a certain space? Is there an actual limit?
Is there an actual limit?
Not really. I think it depends on the city. So somewhere like London, you can have a number of them. What matters is how many high-class universities you've got. And then they grow organically, I think, depending on office space and more importantly, high-quality lab space. So I think they do grow organically. I was in Bradford last week. I think the whole one would cover a lot of the city because it's a smaller place. And they've got an amazing university in Bradford University. So I think once you get it going, it grows organically.
Thank you. Got a question also from Catherine Wang, who's asking what extent the innovation is driven by the social performance and sustainability, and how you capture those metrics. That's one for you, Josep.
Very good question, because when we were doing this global research with the ISP, the International Association of Science Park, and really the sustainability is not still in the key performance indicators of the districts. It's more in some, for instance, in some buildings, in terms of the if they are LEED, this is a level of sustainability, but not yet as a key performance indicators in terms of the innovation district. This is a missing point that we discovered in the research. There is not a still maturity, like in in Sweden or Denmark, that they have more advanced work on that. But my understanding that the sustainability must be not only in the environmental sustainability in terms of the mobility or pollution or whatever. It could be also in terms of the resilience of the economy, how you can combine your economy or you can adopt new technologies for react in an appropriate way with the new opportunities, but also in the social dimension. If you are allowing, in terms of social sustainability, to increase the number of people that is engaged with this knowledge-based economy.
Stephen, do you have any views on that?
I think there's a body of work. Probably you guys could do it as PhD students. But for example, we are off since 2017. The fall in residents with no qualifications has gone from 5% to 1.7%. Now that's quite impressive at face value. How granular can we go into that? Is it because people moved out, new people moved in, or is it because we've got more people doing well in the schools? I think we should try and track this and measure it. And so I'm a Labour politician. I want to see social progress, and there's a whole bunch of work to be done on that. We are gaining KPIs as we speak, but inclusivity is what we're really interested in trying to measure.
Okay, that's really helpful. That's really helpful. Really interesting. Any more questions from the floor? Can I, in that case, I'd like to ask one, which is about the innovation districts we've talked about. They're all in fantastic areas. You can go to Barcelona, you can go here, you can go there. Is it possible, do you think, to build an innovation district in a deprived area of any particular country where there is no jazz bars and infrastructure of art and culture? So can you build one de novo, or does an innovation district has to be seeded by what's there already?
we have two approaches. We have what we say greenfield transformation and brownfield transformation. We see, like in London, from the BBC headquarters and so on, all BBC headquarters, or in Barcelona, but you see a new greenfield transformations, like in Saudi Arabia. By the way, they are doing a very interesting project. It's MISC. Is a very interesting approach, working, but is just in the middle of the world. But they are creating a new district, new city, but we don't. In this case, we were creating cities during the history a long time ago. It means that sometimes it's good to create new things and exploring how can we create this new district. But in the case of, there are more transforming zones, or zones like brownfield transformations, because I feel that the challenge that we have in the cities now is to rethink the cities, and the best strategy is to rethink transforming cities in knowledge cities. That's the moment that I believe that we have a lot of opportunities in all the cities. And I see innovation districts in places like Porto Digital, in Recife, in Brazil, or in Medellin. They were developing a Ruta N, a very interesting innovation district, or in Ann Arbor in Michigan, or in Melbourne innovation districts that they are using RMIT as a tool for transforming. It means there are a lot of examples that to develop innovation districts, not just in developed countries, also in countries that are trying to discover what's next.
Thank you. That's great. And you, Stephen, briefly, if that's possible for a politician.
It's the same answer as to Zara Zalinan's question as well in the chat. It's I mean, you could build a hotel which would have everything that people want. The two secret ingredients of innovation are very smart people, educated in their fields of expertise, and high quality lab space. So you could put that anywhere. It's just, would you rather be in a brownfield site on the outskirts of Riyadh or Medellin, or would you rather be in Barcelona or San Francisco or London? And so, it's those basic factors. And just in terms of Zara's question, yeah, you need sort of water cooler space. You need people walking their dogs in parks, bumping into each other and deciding to set up a business or go on a scientific exploration together. It's trying to create spaces where people collide, where ideas collide. It's and I think that was matters.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Let me add also one comment from one of the members of the chat about talking about the concept of digital. It means we are now working more and more in the concept of hybrid places, place of work and living. This is not about a full-time citizens. This is also about part-time citizens. We have commuters that are commuting London and Barcelona, and they work and live, and they have, and also this is very interesting because you can also work in any cloud. For instance, now I am in Cordoba, Argentina, and I'm working in this cloud of the world. And after that, I will eat some asado and some empanadilla. It's very interesting also to allow the cities to have also part-time citizens or hybrid works. But at the end of the day, the location of the people will be not only the economy, will be where they sleep and where the families, they have the families. That's the moment that you have to create a good place for them for developing their 360 degrees approach, not only a professional life.
Great, that's great. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, our time unfortunately is coming to an end, and thank you very much to all the participants for their really interesting contributions and responses to the questions. If anybody in the audience has any follow-up questions, then do get in contact with us and we can pass questions on and continue the debate. But thank you very much to the audience. Thank you very much also to Stephen Cowan, Josep, Piqué and Asa Lindholm Dahlstrand for their very interesting contributions and thought-provoking comments. So please join me in clapping however you feel is appropriate, digitally or otherwise. So thank you very much, and thank you to the audience for your attendance at the event. We hope to see you again soon. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emma. Thank you for organising. It has been terrific. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great presentations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're in touch. Bye-bye. See you next week, Stephen.